We've seen now that there is an increased risk of dying for people who are not optimistic. But what exactly is going on there? Why would optimism affect your risk of dying prematurely? Let's take a closer look. There are two basic pathways whereby optimism confers health benefits and a lack of optimism confers increased risk of illness and premature death. The first pathway is indirect. It's through behaviors. If you are optimistic, if you think the future is bright, and if you are looking forward to the future, you're more likely to engage in a healthier diet, be more physically active, and not smoke. Part of this is that these behaviors take persistence and they take a way of interpreting setbacks. So if you slip up on your diet and you're an optimist, think about the car wash example. An optimist would say, well, you know, it's not the end of the world. That chocolate cake looked really good. And anyone would have eaten it if they had been served it at a party. And so this doesn't mean I'm a failure. This doesn't mean that my diet is completely hopeless. I can get back on the wagon and tomorrow's a new day. A pessimist would say, this is it. I don't have any willpower. I'm not able to resist temptation. I knew I couldn't do this. There's no point in dieting. I might as well eat chocolate cake every day. So in being able to handle setbacks with an attitude that's likely to lead to a return to healthy behaviors, optimists are able to weather setbacks better than pessimists in terms of engaging in and persisting in health behaviors that promote health. And a pessimist smoker might say, well, everyone's going to die. Why would I not smoke? Whereas an optimist would say, life is great and I don't want to give myself a reason to die prematurely. I don't know how I'm going to die, but I'm certainly not going to invite death, so I'm not going to smoke. As you can see, a lot of health behaviors require a measure of optimism, and that is one pathway whereby optimistic people engage in healthy behaviors and have a longer lifespan. The other way is directly, through physiologic processes. Let's start with inflammation. People who are optimistic have decreased inflammation. Inflammation is basically at the root of most chronic health conditions and leads to progression in severity of most chronic health conditions. Everything from risk of stroke to heart disease, risk of infection, and shortened lifespan can be attributed in some part to chronic inflammation. The fact that optimism reduces chronic inflammation confers a strong benefit for overall health. A second pathway whereby optimism improves health is by decreasing stress hormones. Stress hormones, namely cortisol and epinephrine, are responsible for our fight or flight response. And probably, if we are pessimistic about the future, we're more likely to be vigilant, we're more likely to be stressed out about what will happen. What cortisol does, in particular, adrenaline or epinephrine does a similar thing, is raise blood sugar, raise blood pressure, and suppress the immune system in ways that lead to increased risk of infection. So the effect of cortisol, chronic stress, low levels of optimism is several pathways that are deleterious to health. The effect of optimism is to decrease this pathway. So cortisol levels are less and these problems are less likely to develop. We've already said reducing blood pressure is an effect of optimism. Reducing hemostasis also occurs with optimism, which means the propensity of blood to clot. If you have reduced hemostasis, you're less likely to form blood clots, and blood clots in the heart and blood clots in the brain cause heart attack and stroke respectively. So reduced hemostasis is a good thing. Improved endothelial function is also a good thing. Plaques in the arteries form. The first thing that happens is endothelial dysfunction. Endothelium is the lining of the arteries of our blood vessels, and when we have endothelial dysfunction, it allows cholesterol plaques to migrate across the artery's wall and stick to the side, forming a plaque. So improving endothelial function is one way that optimism reduces risk of blood clots. Optimism also increases telomere length. These are the telomeres in red blood cells. Telomeres are an important component of the aging process. As telomeres shorten, lifespan shortens. By lengthening telomeres, this is a way of directly enhancing life, increasing lifespan. And finally, optimism improves cell repair.